We the only ones?
Great. Welcome everybody
Are
to
the-
our February PTA Council meeting. Go for it, Rita.
Oh yeah, just so again, we're all paid up with Peralta, and they reiterated that they would prefer that we all use Totem, in part because that sort of is continuous throughout the year as opposed to just being a chunk of money at the end of the year. I think, Scott, you guys use that, right?
We do. Are we the only ones?
No, I think there's 4 schools that are.
Hmm.
And I will say that my understanding is that it does cost per member a bit.
It
And
does.
yeah, it does. And I think one of the rationales is that the ideas behind using Totem is that people can just log themselves into Totem and sign themselves up as a PTA member of a school. And so they're doing it independently. And so we don't have to, as PTAs, you don't have to track your membership. It's just auto done. Now, the flip is that I know that we have several schools that's not how they do it, right? They fundraise for PTA membership dues, and then that it's paid as a lump. So I understand that would be more annoying, but it is still something to consider for everybody. In part, it's like you're waiting to get checks from all the schools. And again, and I know it's messy, and yeah. So that's just putting that out there for the request to use Totem. Okay.
Totem is great. It works very well.
Okay, our next item on here, concern
Quick
around
question. I'm
yeah.
sorry. Scott, so I'm assuming that means you've used Totem. Does it provide a
We
school
do.
directory?
It does not.
Okay, thank you.
It's a very narrow scope, but but I remember at Emerson we didn't have Totem, and it's much more like all dealing with all the little checks and little payments is kind of annoying. And so, having it all bundled together and it just comes in one lump thing, it works pretty well. So, try Totem.
And Di, you have on here concern around the construction projects?
Yeah, I was hoping someone from Sylvia Mendez had emailed and said they wanted to maybe just chat with our group in light of, what's happening with Longfellow, but also really all the schools are on the list of facility projects and how we as a PTA can support each other in advocating for how the district is approaching these projects, though they're all quite different. Still, there's learnings from one place to another, and just wanting to share the information. I know, like, I'm here at Longfellow, and I'm not sure Lindsay is as well, but if other folks, I think Emerson, there's a big project coming up. Some other schools are. If there's just wanting to know what's happening and just keeping our ears open about things that we can help each other out with as we advocate for, safe instruction in our schools. Do folks have thoughts or concerns or questions about that?
I know that they're having a meeting at Longfellow coming up soon, and I'm wondering, I do see some people from Longfellow here, if there's any way that could be recorded. It's the same time as P&O, so I can't be there, but Chris notified us that he would be at that meeting. And I know prospective parents haven't received their assignments yet. So again, I'm not sure I'm going to be at Longfellow or not, but it would be great if you could record it so that parents who couldn't make it or prospective parents could watch it in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been, so I am a Longfellow parent and concerned with what's happening, but also want to advocate for how we can make the best out of our situation. As my kid's going to be there for 3 years, there's stuff about the construction going on, but there's also just how can we better the area? Like, we still have containers. I'm gonna confess to this group. My kid ran into a container the other day. And he ran in during PE, bruised. I got called, run down, what's wrong? But it was regular PE, and he's a big kid, he's athletic, but he ran into that container, couldn't walk, he was in crutches for a few days. And then I talked to the principal, and they said, we've been trying to get these containers out, but they're still there. There's an ambulance on the school site, this old thing that kids hide behind and, can't find them, what's happening back there. My kid reports, and this is anecdotal, that kids get bullied behind the container. These are middle schoolers, they get in trouble, but we shouldn't have to deal with that. And, the superintendent said, Longfellow, you're a priority, but I think up here, we're a priority, but down here day to day, can you get that stuff just out so we can function? Because we're 4 months into school and we have these ugly containers. So anyway, I feel it's been helpful that we've pushed, because we did have a meeting with the community. Some of us attended the planning meeting, and then there was a Zoom, and now the PTA is hosting the superintendent to come in to speak about our concerns. But there had to be a grassroots group of us who pushed, and we met and came up with all these demands. We had to strategize. What is our best way to approach the district? We had a Sylvia Mendez representative come up and advise us on how to approach the district, how to message it just to get their attention. So there's a lot of people working, and we're all over the place. And I hate to say it, and it's grassroots. And so some parents agree, some don't agree. And so, we don't want to divide our community, but it's just the nature of it. And without someone leading us, I feel, and leading the information, not blaming the principal because she still has to run a school opposed to a construction project, all that stuff, right? I wish we can come up with a system for the district to how to launch these projects for us, because I got there as a 6th grade parent. I didn't know about this before we came, and they decided this 5 years ago. I get it. But, I didn't know until 2 months before the project starts. That's not cool. So the more information I got, I felt better about it. But honestly, without the information, I made up crap. That didn't make sense. I'm not a construction person. So I'm trying to be reasonable. I'm trying to partner with the district, and yet still I have this anxiety and these concerns. So I imagine people who have other levels of anxiety feel even worse. And so it's not built great in building trust and, community. So
I agree with you, Di. And I think that part of it is that the district doesn't necessarily help themselves when the automatic reaction is defensiveness. And I just have to say it, sometimes labeling parents with unpleasant monikers. And if we could just take each other both at face value for both wanting the best for students, and then following it up with actions, that would be really the best. And hosting meetings that don't allow communications, like the first one, is just, it just demonstrates that they aren't really listening to the concerns. They just come with a list of reasons that we shouldn't be concerned. Like the reason that Longfellow is top priority, yet our students don't have a yard to play in that's safe. They don't have any basketball hoops or play equipment. They have no green space. They have to walk 15 minutes to James Kenny, where the grass is closed right now. We're not having, we're doing the best we can with what we have, but the district isn't really listening either. And that, I think, just engenders mistrust and conflict that is not necessary. Like you said, Di, when you get more information, you feel better about it, that they've got it handled, that they understand the concerns and have a plan to address them. But when it's deny and defend, then the reactions of the community are going to get out of hand. This is Berkeley.
Well, I would also comment as a prospective parent, I'm pretty well informed. And while everything you said is correct, Lindsay, it's really just about having the information that they do know accessible, maybe not even addressing our concerns with answers, but like as a pretty informed parent, having to search at 5 or 6 different places to try to find information. And then the information I find is from like 4 or 5 months ago with no recent updates or anything like that. Like, you have to tell somebody something like 3 to 5 times, and that's someone who's listening. Like, imagine all the people who aren't paying attention. So, more is more, and it just needs to be out there. And if the answer is, I don't know, or we don't know, like, then I want to see that that's the answer. But not being able to find information or only being able to find outdated information is frustrating to me as a prospective parent. I couldn't imagine being there and not having any access to answers. And like, for example, I just heard about the changing the entrances with the bike path and the car and the new potential issues that might bring up at the regular school board meeting. Hearing about a change like that as someone complains at a school board meeting isn't the place where that change should be announced, So, it just they need to be more transparent with communicating this information.
Yeah, I think let's keep this on the agenda as old business, and let's see if we can continue this unifying voices for concerns for our BSC construction projects. Something for us.
Do you guys think it's reasonable to have them try to use our communications PTA people as a means of getting information? I mean, I feel like we have sort of a tree of getting information to parents through our, I mean, I think most schools have a communications person, at least at the elementary level. I don't know if they do. I mean, I know for King, we get our
All the schools
letters
have e-trees. They all have
right.
e-trees.
Right, but like at King, I think it comes from the principal, not from the PTA. So I don't know. I mean, at that point, I don't know if that's the same. I mean, certainly I think all the elementary schools, it comes through the PTA system. But I don't know at the middle and high school level. Do you guys know?
I don't know. I'm on all 3 e-trees for Willard, Longfellow, and King, and I see
Okay.
PTA events on all of them. So
Okay.
who the email's coming from, those PTA announcements are on there, and that would be great to share that out. And like we even have room parents, so like we could send it to 5th grade room parents who might be prospective Longfellow students. The other thing is, though, is if we had consensus, we could use our 5 minutes at a board meeting to raise concerns. So just to mention that, I know I haven't been here as much this year, but if, there's a lot of questions and concerns, that's another option that we have to ask for more direct action or something like that.
I mean, I think that was what the report out that we did was about, was getting more transparency. And our feedback was, I thought I was giving you transparency. So, which is frustrating. Like I don't know. That was where I came up with the idea of like, well, okay, so maybe every school has a communications PTA person, like use that. I realize that there's like the videos the superintendent does, and there's all these other arms, but like maybe another arm to add would be through PTA.
Well, so Rita and I met with the
Yes,
superintendent.
Yeah.
So Rita and I, the superintendent actually followed up with us after what we spoke at the school board meeting, and she wanted to address that issue about communications and transparency, because she honestly said she was a little bit frustrated because she felt she was, and it may be in light of the Sylvia Mendez project, that she was being transparent, or they felt the district was, but it just opened up a larger conversation with her about how are you communicating, what we're expecting, what Berkeley parents were expecting, and we offered our e-trees. We said, let's give it a try. I said, I will commit as your secretary, the secretary. If you were to send it to me, I will send it out on our BPTA list, and let's just get the information out. And she liked the idea, but we'll see. It's hard, in particularly with the Longfellow project. Who comes up with these bullet points? Our grassroots, committee came up with these bullet points. We threw out flyers, but should the district, it really should come from the district to do the outreach and all the information. And, they keep saying that, we have a small team. We hired a communications person in our facilities, but they're small and they're doing all these different projects. But I guess they just really need to acknowledge that this is a demand of our PTA groups, that we want this information, and maybe they need to make it a priority to come up with some communications on a schedule consistently, like you said, and post it on the website. Yes, Vicki.
So I just did a search for current construction projects on the BUSD website, and it says this document presented to the board on June of 2018. And it talked about Oxford Elementary School, the Longfellow cafeteria. So this is not up to date. And this is under facilities, current construction projects, and it's 2018. So maybe transparency is update your webpage so when someone searches for it, they can find the information they're looking for.
So the PAC made a recommendation last year to have a new website, because there's really, technology wise, there's not much they can do about like the terrible search on the website. And then the other thing is that departments can't upload their own information onto their own pages. It has to be done by the central communications person, who's like a contractor who works like 10 hours a month or something like that. So there's all these like systems issues with the website. It would be expensive to redo the website, but it would be an amazing service to communication for the community and for all the various committees, et cetera, et cetera. So if other people like piled on to that, I know it's a time of budgetary stress, but how many hours would you save in the end of preparing all these community meetings if you had information readily available and readily searchable on your website? And yes, the communications department also handles the FOIA requests, like the information requests. So that's definitely like a huge workload put on a couple people. But again, I argue that there would be less legal requests for information if it was available, like, and accessible.
I would argue to say too, not quite moving on to my P&O update, but with the passing of the new measure, I believe slightly more funds is going towards communication. And one of the things that we discussed in P&O was whether it was communication for, BSEP or the entire communication for the district. And we do pay for the entire district's communication department, and there is increased funding. Secondly, at the most recent SBAC meeting, we talked about how some things in the IT department are no longer going to be funded. The programs are going to end and things are moving over from the general fund, like parent trainings and a couple other and hotspots and things like that is in the new proposal. But then again, BSEP gives them funding, and if we think that's important, it's not that hard to update a web page. I mean, it's basically data entry. Like, I feel like you can, get some pretty low paid staff to do data entry and update stuff. So I feel like that's not an unsurmountable thing. And maybe just having like in SBAC, we talk about efficiencies, like a central place for departments to send. This is what I want my update to be. This is what I want on my webpage. And then it's like a to-do list, like a bug report, if you're writing software and you have 50 tasks and you just do the tasks, and then they can report, okay, we received in the month of January 283 website updates and we've completed 100 of them or whatever. And then we could at least have data on that if there was a clear system of how departments could communicate it, and then it could get updated. I feel like this is not rocket science.
Is there
And
no
we don't
ticketing
have
system?
to buy a new website or anything just to update the content.
No, but the way that the search is and the way that it's set
That,
up
you know
right
what,
now
that
is
doesn't
hard.
even matter, because if you just go to department facilities, current projects, I mean, how straightforward is that? You go to the facilities department, you click on current projects, and that is out of date information. It's not even like it's searching. I mean, you can go to the tree of every web page and just go to the department web page, and the stuff on those web pages is not up to date.
Is there
Anyways,
no ticketing system, Vicky?
what was that?
There's no ticket system. There's no web
I don't
ticket
know.
system.
I don't know, but there should be. If there isn't, I mean, then we would have data on this. And John Calise could put in tickets to be like, here's the presentation we gave about Longfellow, add it to the website. I mean, our P&O website's up to date. We have 10 documents every meeting twice a month, and they get put on the P&O website, and it's open to the public. That magically happens somehow. So I feel like, the facilities webpage could get updated more than once every 5 years. On the facilities website.
I only know this, Vicky, because I literally was looking for a presentation tonight and I just did a Google search for BUSD facilities. And the main page has, I mean, I don't dispute that like our website has a lot to improve on, but I did find all the old presentations there. I can find it if you want and send
Yeah,
it to
no,
you.
I see
Okay.
one on this page. Yeah, I do see
Yeah,
this
it's
one.
just the search parameters. I think part of the problem is that I don't know what web service they're using, but some of those web services like keep the old pages. So if you do a search on the wrong like search parameters,
Yeah.
you get some weird jacked up old page. Because you'll see, I think hopefully you're seeing the one I saw and it's like
Yeah, I
totally
see the
updated.
workforce housing from
Yeah.
December, but the most recent one about Longfellow's actual site was from 23.
Hold on, I gotta look.
I don't see anything about the
Well,
actual Longfellow site. But
some of those
yeah,
meetings weren't recorded. They were just like
yeah,
community meetings, so it wouldn't be
yeah.
there. But I am making a note of what you're saying, so I will deliver the message too.
Yeah, maybe there's a singular like small web project where they can work on the search functionality of the website so that it actually brings up something current. Like if you search in the search bar curriculum, then you get something from 2013 and you
Yeah,
don't get the curriculum page.
so for example, if you go to facilities, right, and you see those meetings at the top, we have 523 Longfellow modernization. And then if you go down, there's like the one about the workforce housing. And then if you keep going down and you look at current projects, board approved measures, information pages, and you have Longfellow Middle School campus-wide modernization. So you'd think that was the main page, but then you look at that, it's 21, 23. The most recent stuff is from 2023 on there, which is like a year and a half old. So, that doesn't tell me what's happened this whole last school year, or, if it's going to be done in 2 years like we thought, if it's going to be 5 years, if they've updated that,
We're on
so we
track.
may,
We're
so
on
I mean,
track.
yes, there is some stuff there, but it's still pretty old. But thank you for pointing out some of these other things.
If there isn't any more comments, I think this is great for us to, again, keep it on our agenda here. But I do notice, Kelly, you're here. We were diving into some of the challenges of us working together to kind of learn from each other from our different facility projects.
Yeah, so sorry I'm late to the meeting. I apologize. Is there a place that you want to start? I don't want to repeat anything that I've missed.
Well, we started the conversation. Is everyone okay if we continue it with Kelly's input? If that's all right. Go for it, Kelly.
Okay, so I think that the piece that we're sort of picking up, or the thread that we're picking up from last time, is kind of where we left off. The December-January meeting, which was basically that Sylvia Mendez is still obviously under deep state construction. There's a lot of stuff going on and moving forward. The sound wall has been put up, the noise decibel readings are being taken, though not really readily accessible in like any live kind of way. They're after the fact. And as I stated in the December-January meeting, we are kind of the canary in the coal mine for construction projects at the district level with students on site. So the Longfellow project that's coming up is raising a lot of the same questions and a lot of the same concerns from the parent and caregiver community that the Sylvia Mendez project is currently living. So I feel like there's some de facto solidarity there, but also some after the facto solidarity, because we've already been living this for the construction started in May, so it'll be a year soon. And any takeaways for future forward that we have should be adopted for especially the Longfellow project, since that's obviously coming first, but future projects too, because all schools eventually are up for this. Thoughts, questions? I don't know what people want to talk about exactly.
Well, Kelly, this is Di again. Just
Yep.
before you jumped on, we were just kind of sharing. Lindsay and I are two Longfellow folks. Vicky, our parents, and Vicky is a prospective Longfellow parent, and maybe we can take this on the side. I don't think everyone else here. I think, though, I think it's beneficial for them to hear some of our pains as their schools approach these projects. But maybe we can figure out a way to learn from each other, or from Sylvia Mendez for our project, and see how best we can share this information with the other schools. What do you think?
I think that might be good. How many other, sorry, I can't really see the full view of everyone right now, but if there's anyone else on the call today who knows that their school is slated for upcoming renovation or demolition.
I know that BAM was supposed to have windows replaced, but I don't know if that got postponed again. So.
But Kelly, I think we can do some outreach through our listserv to see if we can get folks to represent their schools, and maybe we can then put our heads together.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Like I said, a lot of the things that I'm seeing going around on the Longfellow community emails to parents and caregivers are many of the same things that we struggled with at the start and are still currently struggling with, in terms of things like district responsiveness, things like mitigations that should have been in place from the start, things like, concern for student safety. I think it's a little bit different it's slightly different in the Longfellow situation, given that the construction is happening many yards away from the building that the students will be occupying, versus the students being in those buildings, meaning like they had to be displaced from those buildings and put in portables several feet away, not really even very many yards away. And I don't know if the distinction kind of lies in the fact that it will be buildings for a different purpose. They're not student buildings, right? But there are still issues with the school itself. There's still issues with the Berkeley Adult School itself in terms of maintenance and upkeep, just as there are with the current Longfellow site that they are fixing. I can't seem to daylight those facility inspection reports from the Department of Education at the California level. I think you might have to submit a Freedom of Information Act for those. So there are some things still to be done, I think.
And I know, Jennifer, you put in a comment that other schools have been converted, reconverted, and maybe it's the learnings from those projects too and what went well as well. It's just kind of figure out a system that we can, I don't know, make this a lot easier for all. Okay.
I don't know that there's been, I mean, what other site has been converted, completely demolished and reconstructed with kids on site?
Was Malcolm X?
My kids went to Malcolm X and they were moved to portables and then moved back in the middle of the year. And it was a pretty big project. Vicky was there too.
Yeah, I was gonna say Malcolm X.
Yeah.
We were in portables for a while.
Every project is different too. I'm not saying that. It's
Yeah.
just, every project is very different. But I mean, the other schools have gone through some pretty big constructions as well. Sylvia Mendez is huge. Longfellow is huge. Malcolm X was huge.
What happened when Berkeley High was renovated?
Berkeley High has had
That's the one
tons
I
of
was thinking.
renovations, but they're a huge city block. So it's like part of Berkeley High is being renovated, but they've been
Yeah.
under construction for years and years and years. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Di, I'm happy to get on a side chat with the folks who this directly impacts, that we can come up with a list of learnings or a list of moving forward, here's what we would recommend, kind of thing.
Well, and I think this is going to segue us nicely. I'd like to have Gila introduce herself a little bit here, and talk a bit. Since Chris Allbeck couldn't come, I was able to quickly ask that she step in tonight. So I appreciate you being able to, at the last minute, really pinch hit here. It's much appreciated.
Thank you for having me. I was at this meeting about a year ago. I don't know how many of the same people are here. So I'm Hila Abel. I'm a Washington parent. I'm also on the District Safety Committee, which is a BUSD-wide committee that ultimately issues recommendations to the superintendent around safety in the schools. Safety can mean a lot of things, and it certainly does mean a lot of things. This committee came about through some advocacy efforts and started about a year ago. And I think we're finally kind of sinking our teeth into certainly some very kind of timely safety issues that are popping up right now, but also hopefully setting our district up for all kinds of good thinking, planning, implementing around safety kind of for the long term as well. There's a lot going on at the high school right now, which has its own safety committee, and we have representation to that. So I just wanted to update you that we exist, we're doing the work, we're really open to hearing, what parents or even staff people or students have to say at the various sites. We're also recruiting new members, which is something that I'm hoping that I could have your help with. We didn't quite get all the members that are in our bylaws, and then we've also had a couple people drop out for various reasons. So right now, we for sure have slots open for 3 representatives from elementary schools, which would be a parent or a guardian, to sit on the committees. The meetings are monthly, and then there's work in between. We also have 2 spots open for Berkeley High students themselves who sit on the committee. So if you're a high school parent and your child or someone at the school would be interested, we'd love to have that representation as well. And the way the nomination works is that each school's principal would need to nominate. So you're welcome to reach out to me and just kind of talk to me about the committee. I will leave my email here. But in terms of actually the route to get on the committee is through the school principal. So I would appreciate that if you could share it with other parents, PTA parents, non-PTA parents, people you know at your respective sites. That would be really helpful because we really want people who care and who will contribute. We want to make the district safer. Yeah.
Are you up for tackling issues around, I mean, I think there's a lot of safety concern around all the construction projects. It does sort of fall under the same umbrella of like, again, I think, Lindsay, were you bringing up decibel noise of construction and things like that? I mean, like those would be considered a safety issue. Is that something that the district safety committee is up for stepping in and rallying behind?
That's a great question. I don't want to answer on behalf of like the entire committee. My sense is that when there's one or two people on the committee that care about a certain issue, they can tackle that issue and get things done. I don't think we would necessarily, people who are already tackling issues, I don't know if they would want to take that like another issue on, but I think if there were representation and people who wanted to work on it, then to me personally, like that sounds compelling. That's not something that has been on the table so far. And I will say with a new committee, I've never kind of joined a committee at the start, but there's a lot of kind of like, when there's so many things to cover and so few people, it is necessary to prioritize. That's for certain, to at least get some things done, you know, before moving on to other things. So not that we want to spread ourselves thin, but there is something about people who care about something and want to work on it. I personally came from it from kind of like a gun safety perspective was a big concern for me and some other people, and that's how I got involved. But there's absolutely different issues. Right now, we have someone who's on the Berkeley High's GSHAC committee, which I don't want to butcher the acronym. I think it's gender equity and sexual harassment. So there's concerns around LGBTQ plus bullying that's going on at Berkeley High, and that's an issue that's being brought up that's sort of different than what I came forth with. And so basically it's a variety and it's all being formulated and I kind of now, and I think it's important to have people who care and people who want to contribute. And then the third thing that I wanted to bring up was when I was here a year ago, I spoke about how the elementary schools had all been installed with a lock camera buzzer mechanism. So elementary school parents might know that if you if you're arriving during the school day, like not the regular drop off or pickup time, and you want to get into the school, your school should be locked now, and you press a buzzer and someone in the office lets you in. And what I was interested in doing was sort of checking with all the sites that in fact, that's happening at all the schools. I know that facilities installed them all, but I want to just kind of double check that they're in use and also ask if there's issues with them. I don't necessarily want to take up your meeting time right now to do that, but what I will do if I can read it, I recall that you send out like an email with minutes. So I will send like a form, like a Google form, and it would be really helpful if at least one person per school could say yes or no, we're using them. Per elementary school, yes or no, we're using them. And I've noticed an issue or I haven't noticed an issue. And I'm hoping to get a complete picture from all the elementary schools on that project to sort of wrap up with it. Longfellow is locked. Thank you. Great. That's basically what I came to share. I think there will be more down the line. We do want to get kind of each school to have a safety committee because each site has its own specific issues. I mean, you're talking about noise that could be done also from a school level, but like reporting to the district. I'm at Washington. It's kind of unique because we have a crosswalk between our two sites. which is like unique to our site. And I know that many sites have things that are unique to their site. So I'll probably be back if I may in the future to talk a little bit more about how we can get that kind of interest going and work going at each site. So yeah, questions, Vicky?
Yeah, does your SSC not do your safety plan and have like a safety subcommittee or?
Our SSC, every SSC must sign off on the safety plan. I think the concern in the district safety committee is, are these sort of how much thought is going into updating them every year? Like, is this kind of, we don't know actually. I mean, this is kind of a question. Like, are they kind of being signed off on from the previous year, or is there thought like, are there safety issues that we haven't thought of yet? The district writes them, and then the SSC just signs off on them. Is that how it's happening?
I can speak to Cragmont and Longfellow. Cragmont, we looked at the Cragmont one 3 times now. It's mostly a form where the district writes it, and then the principal chooses the team members so that current team members are actually, you know, assigned to things. They do the trainings and everything, and, you know, but there's like only a small section that we have control over or any input on. We mostly just sign off on it. I mean, it is not, there's not a whole lot of room for movement. At Longfellow, they take more of a collaborative approach to it. But again, it is a form mostly filled out by the district as like a stable kind of thing following the law. And then there's just small sections that we fill out unique to the school site.
This has been a huge topic of contention at Berkeley High, which you may or may not be aware of. And at our most recent SSC, we sort of made a recommendation of transforming the safety committee and really talking about what the safety plan requires by the state that is sort of a rubber stamped, not really able to change type of thing versus a holistic view of here's all the other safety stuff that maybe we do related to the safety plan. So there's things that are done that aren't in the safety plan, but the safety plan could link to, or, you know, and have it be sort of, you know, 2 things. And I think what the contention at Berkeley High is the parents are wanting all of these other things in the safety plan. And the administration is saying the safety plan's a legal document that we have to give to the state. They gave us a template and we can't put anything in there that we're not already doing. So it's almost a record of what is being done. We can't put anything aspirational in there. And then there's funding. Like if you want to do something, where does the funding come from? And the current safety committee doesn't have sort of the authority to deal with that. So we're looking at revisiting. So I would encourage the district committee to help elementary schools do that. That's part of what DSHEC is potentially doing, is having, you know, the district level disability awareness committee, but then having local committees at the school. So if we had individual safety committees that look at each site holistically, but then sort of help advise the template that is the safety plan, but then have a different set of information that is safety practices versus legal protocols, you know, and making that distinction clear to parents.
Well, may I
Absolutely.
just suggest putting it in the SIPSA then? That we have a whole goal on welcoming and safe schools. There's no reason not to put actions and aspirational goals about, you know, having a safe campus in the SIPSA itself. There's absolutely no reason. But the thing is, just like you said, Hilla, is that there's got to be somebody with passion to actually like get that done on the SSC, and somebody who's willing to like speak up when it's time or advocate for that time to be made. Because otherwise, sometimes things move too fast and you never get your chance to be included. So that's when you need to advocate for working groups if they aren't already in existence, where you can advocate for these types of things. It's really hard to have a functioning committee when these committees become so difficult to feel like you have an impact on, and then they kind of get stripped down to like people who will just kind of be there to make quorum happen.
Right. So thank you for the background on all that. It did come from the Berkeley High effort, Vicky, which I'm not part of, but I've heard about from other committee members. So Berkeley High is thinking of itself as kind of bringing this issue to light and kind of a pilot and like what issues they've discovered that can potentially be shared with other schools. Thank you for also Lindsay, like your experience that there's only a little bit of leeway. It's really interesting what we get told and what we don't get told by the district. And so it's really helpful to hear that. What we want to do is empower the schools. So we have certain power as like a district committee. We recommend to the superintendent. We have a slot to speak in front of the school board. And so, we're really like the allies with the different sites in terms of making the safety plans be better, like not just be compliant to the state, but really kind of hit all the safety issues, that we're concerned about. So, it can happen in different ways. It can also potentially happen by us advocating from a top-down policy that schools have to have safety committees and there has to be some sort of working group. That's a possibility to try to get a policy that kind of like a mandate to the school sites in the way that SSCs need to sign off, that there also needs to be some other body, perhaps a hybrid body, like we're sort of thinking of a PTA / SSE kind of hybrid. Almost like they have like the 2x2 between the, the city council and the school board, something like that. People who could really think through different safety issues. And we'd also love to provide resources, some sort of like checklist, like, have you thought of these things at your site and which of these might apply to you? Another resource that we could provide would be a survey. So we did a survey at Washington. We kept it down to 10 questions. And well over 100 families replied to our safety survey about, it went to parents, and it was the issues that parents were most concerned about regarding safety, kind of like the safety of the campus. And then also we had some interest at our site talking about transportation safety, getting to and from school. So providing kind of like a sample survey that could go out to parents or even teachers at the different sites. So that's kind of like some of the thinking that we have, or some of the ideas that we have of how to kind of make it happen at each site. But it sounds like there's people here with experience. Like I'm totally open to hear like how you think it should happen, like how to make it work. Lindsay, can I ask you, because it sounds like you have experience?
I didn't know the question was actually like meant to be answered right now.
Yeah, no, I really, well, since it's kind of come up, I think it would be really helpful to hear from people at the different school sites, like how to make it happen so that each school can evaluate its own safety to like a higher level than what's currently being done with the safety plans.
The first step would be to, like, in the beginning of the meeting, we were talking about using PTAE trees to better use. And so creating blurbs and even maybe a graphic for each school site to, be interested in this topic or complete a survey or like, talk to somebody, connect with others who are like-minded, right? With no pressure and no strings might be one way to get out. Also use OFI. I would use the structures that exist already instead of creating new committees, because most committees have a hard time getting attendance or quorum. It really depends on the leader at that school site, or if somebody has passion for the project. And so the first job is to find like-minded people who have a passion for the project, and then keep in touch with those people as your leaders and try and grow it. My experience on committees, I mean, Vicky has just as much, if not more, experience on committees than I do. I frankly have stopped most of my committee work. I don't think it's very helpful. Working within the system is harder than working outside of the system sometimes. And so I find spending hours of my evenings on meetings. As you can see, we have 11 people on here. We used to have 50, 60 people on these Zoom calls during the pandemic, when people were really worried about the future of our educational system. Now that things are kind of like running like they used to, with factions coming up, and, we've got a construction faction, a safety faction. These people we're always going to have active concerned citizens in their respective areas, but there's no compelling reason for people to get together in these spaces anymore. And and you don't usually get lifers like Vicky in these committees, because it's a grind and the payoff isn't for decades. So if you have people in the long game, that's great, but these are unicorns, So it is hard and slow work. And so I would start with your expectations small and offer community first. And hopefully it rolls like a big fat snowball for you guys.
Thank you. Thanks for your thoughts. Vicky, did you have any thoughts on it? No. Okay. You're already doing it at your school. Yeah.
We have as part of our PTA board a facilities liaison person, and he does things like, we had a student pass out because of the heat.
Wow.
And he like found people to donate air conditioners and installed them himself in like 4 of the classrooms. And then he got his own temperature gauges to collect data on what the temperatures were in some of those rooms. I mean, so we have like that grassroots thing. And he occasionally will attend district facilities meetings. If you send me information, I can tell him about the district safety committee. I'm not sure if it's quite the same as facilities. He's more interested in facilities, but I think it overlaps a little bit, particularly when we're talking about construction. And he's a board member, our PTA board member. So that's what he does. And he occasionally comes to our board meetings and reports out via email. But that's like his little pet project. And the way he stays connected with everybody is through the PTA. But even like the PTA board, like when Jennifer was at Malcolm X, we probably had 25, 30 people on our board. And we have 9, maybe, assuming they all show up. And I'm graduating, and I don't even know what our board's going to look like next year. I've been president like the last 4 years because I can't get anyone to do it. I mean, so it's really difficult to get volunteers. And part of it is you have to have the right personality, I think. A lot of people need to be told what to do or be given permission what to do. I'm not that kind of person, where I'll just walk into something and I'll take, I'll just speak up, right? But like the biggest trouble I have with new PTA members is they ask me questions for every little thing. I get like hundreds and hundreds of emails, and yes, I appreciate them, but like you're an event coordinator, take over the event, make the decisions. And people are afraid to make decisions on their own. They want, or they want to be told how to do it, and it's so much work to do that. It's easier for me to do it myself than to tell somebody else how to do it. And so you're looking for people who'll take on, who are good at making decisions, who are confident enough to trust themselves to do it, and sort of, and then build relationships. It's about relationship building too, is the other thing. But, PTAs could start with getting one person on their board that sometimes meets with them, that's interested in facilities and safety, and then do grassroots through other people. Every time I hear something about it, I just forward him the email because it's not my area, and he'll follow up or not, depending, so.
Thank you for that. I will say that unfortunately, facilities is probably not the right thing for a safety committee. And I say that because we had a facility subcommittee that I was on, and then we had a 1 hour presentation from John Calise, the director of facilities, about how all the facilities decisions have already been made. And there was some other committee and there was some bond money. And basically, it would be very, very, very difficult to make any facilities changes. And somehow, by some miracle, like he was able to install the locks, cameras, and buzzers as a facilities project, but that it would be almost like wasting our time to try to. So that's the reality. I wish it were different, but thank you for that and
Well,
your
like,
other thoughts.
and yes, I hear you, but like we have our storage closet, and there was a big hole in the wall, and he like helped clean it, but then helped facilitate putting in the work request for facilities to come out and like, repair it and clean out the mold and put a patch on the wall. I mean, so there are things that, yes, they're different, but one person could be interested in both, I feel like, because locked doors are safety, but they're also facilities. Anyone who's doing anything related to safety at a school site, if it's not behavior related, has to deal with the facilities department. That's just a fact of life. So if you have no interest in like talking to them or building relationships with them, you're not going to get very far. That would be my bit of advice, is that unless it's behavior related, you have to have a relationship with the facilities department. That doesn't mean you can't circumvent them or do grassroots stuff, but you have to be aware of them.
Yeah, we definitely are very much in touch with John Calise. But I think in terms of safety projects that were more, let's say, preventative in nature, it sounds like this was like there's a big hole in the wall and there was
Yeah.
mold and that was a little more urgent. But in terms of something preventative, like in the event of this, we wanted this, or the event of that, we wanted that. I think that would be a lot harder to get funding for. And I honestly think that's where individual PTAs might need to rally around like a certain issue at a school. And
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what we did. We talked about what it would take to deal with the heating and the air conditioning, or get shades on the windows. He invested time finding out the correct way of doing things with facilities, and then we did it our own way with our PTA funding. But
might-
at least, they were in the loop, and we weren't going to get in trouble for it,
It might be something too to think about, basically working within, like, you're pulling new people to be parts of the safety committee, working within the current PTAs and connecting those links so that it's people who are already sitting on some of the SSC meetings and things like that is likely going to be helpful to help with the navigation component.
absolutely. I think we were thinking of it, and again, this doesn't have to be the way that it is. It's helpful to have your all's input, but something like one administrator, a principal or vice principal, and then, one PTA person and one SSC person or something like that to kind of like work around the issues. Like that was kind of the thinking because, PTAs might fundraise, SSCs are going to vote, administrators obviously have their own viewpoints. So something like that. But, I'm not sure. It sounds like sometimes it's hard to find the people, et cetera. So
Jennifer just in the chat. She's on the facility committee and the safety committee, so she says she's happy to help as well. If you want to connect with Jennifer
Oh,
Shkowski.
thank you so much. This is now our second meeting together today.
I know.
Thank you.
Hi again.
Hello again.
I would,
Um,
my last comment would be also to be mindful of giving people double duty. So while an administrator, an SSC, and a PTA person are great, that PTA person now has 2 meetings and the SSE person now has 2 meetings. So that's why our guy is like, that's all he does. We don't give him any other work, and he doesn't always come to the PTA meetings as long as he's in communication with me or our secretary, because they might care about safety, but then not want to have to also go to all of our board meetings. But as long as they can communicate what they're doing so somebody can speak on their behalf. So just, when you're looking for these people, be mindful of those kinds of things, of doing double duty.
point. Good point. And Rita, you'd asked about district safety committee people being on SSEs. We just don't have that many of us. So we don't represent that many schools. So that might work potentially next year.
Yeah.
You
It's helpful
know,
to keep in mind, though, that PTAs often don't have that many people either, right? And so again, like thinking about how to make a separate committee be more integrated within what PTAs are already doing, because it's the same parents who are interested in these issues. I keep thinking, one of our agenda items for tonight is that Di and I are done in June, right? So we are no longer, will be off, PTA council as leadership. We'll need people to step into these positions. And, there's 12 of you here. No, there's 10 of you here, all who already have PTA positions, right? And so, we're hoping that we can get you guys to outreach through your networks to help find somebody willing to take on these 2 positions, because it's a 2-year term and we're not supposed to stay on longer than that. Vicky, shh, don't say anything about 4 years. Shh. But really, yeah, so that's an issue too.
thank you, everyone. Thanks for all your input, all your thoughts. And Rita, I'll loop back about just following up from this meeting.
Thank you for being able to
Okay.
come at the last second like this. I really appreciate it.
It worked out. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Right. Do we want to jump to, I know my agenda's all over the place. Do we want to jump to SBAC, Vicky? And you 2 read a report back? What's going on, particularly with our budgets?
Yeah, I can do that. Let me just go back to where that was. Okay. So, I also have a brief P&O update as well. That's the BSEP Policy and Oversight Committee. We went through our teacher template. We looked at the numbers of how we calculate our FTEs for next year. And we have finished reviewing all of the annual plans from the 23-24 school year. And we'll be voting to recommend that the board approve those. And then we're going to be starting up our reviews of budgets for next year. And I did an overview of this at the last board meeting, if you want to look at that recording in more detail about what we've been doing in P&O. In regards to SBAC, so our most recent meeting, we looked at the staff proposed reductions that they've come up with, and they found about 1.5 million. Our target is about 7 to 8 million. And they did not disclose 750K of that money because of the sensitive nature of potentially programs and or people who might be cut. However, some of the things they did share is the reduction of a 0.5 central office HR person, a reduction of a RTI TSA, which is also in the central office. And Matt Espinosa's position was one time held as not being filled. They're going to reduce that position of the Equity and Belonging Director and not bring it back for ongoing savings. Then, as I briefly mentioned earlier, there was an offset of 50K from the IT budget. Some of us at P&O are not quite happy from the equity lens of getting rid of all the hotspots for students. And so I'm sure that's going to come up when that budget is presented to us. But there was some professional development, some parent training, some hotspots, other equipment that Max, the IT director, proposed removing from our BSEP budget so that other things in the general fund could be funded to help with the reductions in the general fund. The other thing we talked about was revenue generating strategies, and some of those included charging for transportation, either to families and or to off-site after school programs, which were both problematic. Parents are unhappy that they can't get their students and learns on site, so they have to pay for an off-site program. Then to have that offsite program have to then pay to be able to get the bus to drop the kids off there, which even though the program's paying, that's just going to get passed along to the parent. Also, we asked for them to give us real numbers of what those dollars might look like, because you can't charge unduplicated students for transportation or SPED students for transportation. So we wondered if that would really generate that much income. Then we reviewed our legal costs, or some of our legal costs, and revisited the discussion of having a employed lawyer. I forget the term that they use, but instead of all being consultants, in-house counsel, having in-house counsel, which might cost a little bit of money, but then might offset more money in consulting fees in the long run. And so we're still investigating that. And then we talked about the pink slips that are coming out on March 15th. And so the district has hard money and soft money. Soft money is things like BSEP. It's also PTA dollars, grants, federal funding, all of those types of things. And any position that is related to soft money is going to get a pink slip. But it was reiterated that does not mean that that person won't be rescinded or that they're getting laid off or fired, but there is a large number of pink slips going out because by law they have to do that. However, just based on the discussions, there will be people, I think, that are let go, and there will be cuts to programs that we love. And we're going to have some hard discussions about that. One of the things that P&O brought up that we'd like the district to investigate as part of their efficiency is to look at things like professional development done across the district and look at how much money is being spent on that. And BSEP funds a section called professional development, but then within several budgets, there's mini professional development budgets. And we're wondering, are we spending too much? Are we spending too little? Like, how can we look at these things? Or another example is tutoring at Berkeley High. There's tutoring funded through general fund. There's tutoring funded through BSEP. There's tutoring funded by site dollars through BSEP. There's the PTA and the sports tutoring. And to really look at all these programs and say, do we want to keep them all, or how are our dollars better spent? Where can we save money? So, for example, I believe at the last school board meeting, people spoke up in support of Bridge. Bridge is a program that at P&O we've often really encouraged and liked. They're very successful. They're cost effective. And we feel like it's better off to give them more money to expand their student base and cut other programs that we feel aren't as effective or cost effective. So those discussions are going to be happening, but it's going to be some hard decisions because we have to come up with like 7 million in cuts total. And this was just the first round of items that were brought to us. So that's that.
Thank you, Vicky. That was fantastic.
Thanks, Vicky. I have a question. what's the timeline from here till when those cuts have to be made? Like, what are your next steps? Or the
So, it's a lot. And one of the things I noted in one of my notes was that we could still be discussing some of this stuff in like June because, 2 meetings ago, we got a presentation regarding the governor's budget, and there is a surplus. And in theory, we're getting a surplus of money, potentially 800K related to TK and some other things. And then other money that we have no idea how that's going to be dispersed. So we should be getting updates on that. But they do a May revise of the governor's budget. And so depending on how that comes back, we might need to then re-meet again in May and change or make more cuts or make less cuts or things like that. And so there's a contingency that 45 days after that, we can still make changes to the proposed budget for next year. So we're going to be working up until the end. Like we start with low hanging fruit, we make some of the tough decisions, and then as we get closer to those numbers, we adjust things because there's new expenses as well, right? And those haven't come to us yet. So we might come up with $5 million of cuts and then be presented with 1.5 million in new expenses that we hadn't considered, and then that's going to offset us again. So it's ongoing, and we often will add 1 or 2 meetings at the end of the year and meet in June. So yeah, so we're getting into the nitty-gritty. I would also say we have federal funding, not a lot, but some that we also put in a questionable bucket of are we going to get this? So
I think she said 5 million, right?
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
My question is that as you know, Vicki, like we shared time on this committee, like so many others. And so my question is that last year we had to make millions of dollars of budget cuts, and then not very many of them came to fruition, or there were increases in expenditures in departments that negated the cuts that the SBAC had made, leaving the pot to cut this year just as great or greater than the cuts that needed to be made last year. So what lessons are being taken from that experience from last year and moved into this year's discussions so that, we're not just passing the buck? Because the fear would be to end up, like it takes 20 years, but the fear would be to end up like Oakland or SF where, hard choices are never made. And so therefore, like we're always spending more than what we're taking in.
Yeah, I don't know because I think that relates to ongoing spending versus one-time spending. And so we did make several cuts last year that was one-time spending, which saved us from having to cut ongoing spending. I think that they're really looking at a reduction in workforce and potential positions that will be ongoing, not just one time. Per that 750K of undisclosed, because those people or departments don't know that they might be on the chopping block yet. So I feel like the superintendent is planning on making really tough decisions this year. That doesn't mean that if possible, they won't choose to make one-time cuts and push it down another year in hopes that things like the COLA or, other money might come in. But that was the other thing. The COLA was a 0.5 less than we thought it was going to be. So that is an extra 500,000 that we will have to cut that we weren't aware of once we got the new COLA dollars. I mean, so I feel like we're a step closer, but I don't know that we won't be pushing it a little bit.
Thanks again, Vicki. I think we're meeting on Wednesday too, right?
Yes, maybe.
All of the timing, the moving around of times and days I'm a little.
Yes, we are. We are meeting on Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and P&O's meeting tomorrow. Yeah, this is my week of meetings.
Yeah. All right. I think we only have a couple more items on our agenda, right, Di? There was the let's see.
If there's anyone to report on extended learning here, no.
I don't think so.
We had a PTA member try to rally folks, which I think she did for everyone but BAM for fundraising. So there's a little fundraising committee going on. I think she rallied all the schools together. Does anyone know the BAM? Or I guess
I sent you their email.
Thank you. Got it. Okay.
And then I think the last thing on here. Good night. Thank you, Vicky. The last thing on here was just the about that other gosh, I had pulled out the email about it. The Berkeley High community meeting.
Right. Cielos usually attends to this meeting. It's about the Berkeley High safety issues, particularly I think the unhoused situation, I want to say. It's what they're trying to address. And she couldn't attend the meeting this coming Wednesday, and she's hoping someone here. But maybe I'm going to tell her maybe she just posted to our listserv and maybe she can get someone to go.
Yeah, do you remember what time it is?
Yeah, it's Wednesday from 5:30 to 7:30 at the North Berkeley Senior Center. So right by the Trader Joe's.
Yep. I have another meeting I have to be in at that same time, so I can't, but hopefully someone else will be able to step in.
I'll tell her to shoot it out to the listserv
Yep.
to see if anyone will bite there. Okay.
Okay. Well, I think this gets us through our meeting tonight. We will try and get Chris Albeck back. Again, like, think about anyone in your communities that would be up for stepping into my role or Di's role as secretary or president for council for next year. So I know that we have, all of you are already doing things, but if you have others in your communities that would be interested.
I do want to put out there, one of our next meetings is with the superintendent, and she had actually voiced that she'd love for it to be in person.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Is that something that people would be up for?
I had suggested, yeah, fingers up, yes. If people are up
Yes.
for in person, I was
In
actually,
person will be good.
that would be great. Okay. Oh, hi. Is that you?
Yes,
Hi,
that's me.
I had actually suggested,
Hi.
I was suggesting to Rita that it would be lovely for us to get together in person to celebrate all the unicorns in this room. I mean, we don't do that. We do so much work, and I think it'd be great for us to meet with the superintendent, for her to put faces, and maybe she sees many of your faces already, but just to see all the work and have a conversation with her just in general. I don't know what the topic would be, but just for her to get to know us, because I think that would be great to build community, the rapport we need. And again, rebuilding this trust. I don't know, just the more we're in person and she sees us, we can build that dialogue we've been talking about this whole meeting. But that's if people have space to meet, with food and drink, of course, provided. Think about it. Thumbs up if you already know you can come, would want to come. But just planting a seed, I guess. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can I say hi to Sarah? I think Sarah, welcome. Is there anything that you wanted to bring up?
No, the Rosa Parks PTA kind of rotates the person who visits this meeting. So this is the first time I've joined, and I took notes and I'll share them out with the rest of our PTA.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks. It's interesting to see this next level up side of it.
Awesome. I'm going to publish the minutes too, and if you can share that as well, that'd be great. Okay.
Can I just take a
Di, oh, sorry. Di, could you add to the minutes that that we'd love for people to publicize the Truth About Reading screening that the North Region SELPA CAC Berkeley Public Schools Fund and Reading for Berkeley are doing on March 4th. It's just coming up next week. And we're going to have a great panel discussion with a dyslexic student and a school board member and an advocate. So hopefully people will, it's an easy way to engage and to learn a lot.
Yes, I will include it. If you don't mind giving me that blurb, that'd be awesome. Anyone have questions,
Yes.
to Lindsay, about that? I know you spearhead a lot of that.
Where is this one?
At the West Campus Theater. It's the Oxford Elementary Theater that's on the 2020 Bonar side. And it's doors open at 5:15. Film starts at 5:45. Everybody can get out the door by 8. Translation on request, and we can put Spanish subtitles on the movie.
And dinner is provided.
No.
Oh, no, I thought I saw
CAC
that.
has no money.
I saw that. Okay, my bad.
Try it, and there's, if you want your kids to come, they might be a little bit bored. It's not like, Dogman or anything, but we'll never turn you away.
And I just wanted to say thank you, Lindsay. That was actually a good segue. Thank you for sending out the email around getting the dyslexia simulation group back together in late March. I know they haven't replied yet as if they can do it or not, but this would probably be an email forthcoming if they do agree. That there was a dyslexia simulation event last year that was very well attended. Sylvia Mendez hosted. It was a great event. It was, I think people really found it informative and had a lot of questions after. There was a lot of people staying later to find out more and all kinds of things. So I think it was a successful all-around event, and I'm really hoping that they can come through again this year. I think
Kelly, we're just going to
date-
act like they say yes, okay? We're
We're
going to
gonna act-
operate. Yeah.
We're going to do that. It's March 20th at Sylvia Mendez. And so more info on that later to blast out to the listserv as well. Thanks, Lindsay.
Yeah, no worries. I'm really excited for the event because last year we did it in April, which was a little bit late for people to activate and help get the wheels rolling if their kids needed extra support. And this year we're doing it a month earlier so that, people have the time to put in the paperwork and requests for help if they feel like that's necessary to help their kids access their right to education.
That's great, because I think that was actually the one piece that was missing, was sort of a hands-on or in service on kind of how to do that or what form to fill out or where to start. And that was why so many people stayed after the event, was to just talk up other parents who'd already been through the process, myself included, and some other folks. So if there's a way to incorporate a short 1-point lesson or something, that would be really, I think, very beneficial to the crowd.
Agreed. Let's make it happen.
Great.
So Thursday, March 20th, 5:30, Sylvia Mendez, pizza's on them.
Okay, give me the blurb. I'll plug it in the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Di.
Okay. All right, we are at 8:59. We're good. Any last comments?
I don't
Hollis?
know how we did it. How did we fill up this whole meeting? We were supposed to be done in a half an hour, guys.
Hollis, we haven't heard from you. Thank you for attending. Okay, well, let's wrap up. It's 9 o'clock. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying hi, still here.
Looks like you're at work.
I feel like I'm at work, so yeah, that's fine. No, I'm at home right now.
Okay, great. All right, well, let's read out any last comments or?
Nope. Thanks everyone for coming and hanging in there with us. We'll see you next month.
Appreciate everyone and your hard work. Hang in.